Straight ahead on 12 News, leaving behind a legacy in Plymouth. We catch up with a retiring fire chief and learn about his replacement. Plus, more than 200 miles of streets in need of major repairs. How Brooklyn Park plans to pay for the fixes. But first, envisioning the future, we'll look at ideas for planned light rail station stops. 12 News starts right now. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. There will be plenty of impact generated by light rail if and when it finally becomes a reality in the northwest suburbs.
In Brooklyn Park, developing station area stops is a popular topic. Eric Nelson has more.
If all goes as planned, light rail will have a heavy presence in Brooklyn Park.
I think the city is really happy with the planning process so far.
Entering Brooklyn Park,
the proposed Blue Line extension will cut a swath through the city with 5 stops. They are 63rd Avenue, Brooklyn Boulevard, 85th Avenue, 93rd Avenue, and Oak Grove Parkway.
Each station is unique. Some are more neighborhood oriented, others are really about commercial and retail or employment.
The half-mile perimeter around the station stops is considered critical. If planned right, these hubs could fuel business and create neighborhood energy.
I think that's what we've seen on other lines in the Twin Cities and nationwide.
Bottineau Boulevard and 63rd Avenue is going to be one of the light rail stops here in Brooklyn Park. The vision for this spot is to possibly create a marketplace or an area where people can gather. Hennepin County has proposed a pop-up market, farmers market, or ethnic market. The county has come up with land use and market analysis concepts for each station stop, creating ideas and suggestions for the future. Because the light rail tracks will travel north and south, the county and city is also focused on creating east-west station links.
How do you make sure that there are really strong connections for people walking to the station, people riding their bikes to the station, people taking other transit to the station?
Planning for connections is a really critical component of this planning process. We need to be sure we're strengthening connections for pedestrians, bicyclists, and buses.
In Brooklyn Park, I'm Eric Nelson, Channel 12 News.
Brooklyn Park also expects the 85th Avenue stop to be bustling. That, of course, is where North Hennepin Community College and the new Hennepin County Library are located.
Brooklyn Park, meanwhile, is planning a multi-year road fix that it didn't anticipate. Many roads through the city have been deteriorating twice as fast because of an old asphalt mix supplied by the state. The $35 million problem impacts about 75% of the city's streets. To pay for the fixes, the city gave initial approval to a franchise fee that would be tacked on to gas and utility bills. Each residential household would pay about $14 more per month starting in March. Some residents who live on private streets argued they shouldn't have to pay the fee. There's about 15 miles of private roads in Brooklyn Park.
Everybody's health insurance is going up. Taxes here in Brooklyn Park are higher. Car insurance is higher. Yet we're going to end up maybe paying for somebody else's streets.
I'm not in favor of a rebate for private streets. You turn right, you're on a city street. How did you guys get here tonight? You had to drive on city streets.
The franchise fee would be in place for 14 years, and the City Council would hold a final vote on the fees at its November 23rd meeting.
Minnesota has ambitious goals to close the achievement gap in schools and increase the graduation rate to 90% by the year 2020. The report card from Minnesota's Department of Education shows since 2010, graduation rates are up more than 13% for students of color and up nearly 4% for white students. At a Senate Education Committee hearing today, Commissioner Brenda Caselli has credited paying back money borrowed from schools and investments in early learning for the gains. However, the commissioner warned there's still room for improvement among all students.
It's very, very important that we concentrate on all students in Minnesota, as well as making the growth for our African American students, our Hispanic students, our special ed students, our Asian students, all of our students, American Indian students, that they grow even faster. But we cannot neglect white students as well in that. Everybody has to grow.
The commissioner says one huge priority going forward is 4-year-old preschool.
The city of Plymouth has hired a new fire chief. Roger Coppa will replace Chief Rick Kline, who is retiring. Coppa started out with the Brooklyn Park Fire Department, where he eventually became deputy chief. He was most recently the assistant fire chief in St. Louis Park. The retiring Plymouth fire chief is leaving behind a long legacy.
During his 23-year tenure, Rick Kline made some progressive changes to the Plymouth Fire Department. Reporter Sonia Goins has more on his career.
When there's a fire emergency in Plymouth, Fire Chief Rick Kline is the one leading the rescue efforts.
Certainly there have been the dramatic calls where we've been there at the right time with the right number of people to effect a rescue.
Kline came to Plymouth from Westchester, Pennsylvania.
So I just essentially answered an ad and was fortunate enough to be appointed the fire chief in 1992.
Over the years, he's taken the city from a volunteer fire service
The city has grown immensely and is continuing to grow.
to a full-service, paid-on-call department.
Station 2 here is staffed 15 hours a day, Monday through Saturday.
Kline is also known throughout Hennepin County as being a very good tactical fire chief.
If we have a fire, he's the kind of fire chief that you want there running that fire ground operation.
Last year, Kline was given the city's Legacy of Leadership Award. Besides keeping his men and women safe on the job, Chief Kline says telling the public about fire prevention is also a top priority.
You know, if we're able to get to you before with education and community outreach, that's what we really prefer to do.
Chief Kline is very humble and says firefighting is one of the best jobs in the world.
And then the payback you get, you know, the helping of the others and having the kids and the families remember things that you do for them.
In Plymouth, Sonia Goins, 12 News.
This is Chief Kline's last full weekday on the job. When he retires, he plans to continue teaching scuba diving to people with disabilities.
The state representative Peggy Flanagan says she is excited to get to work after taking the oath of office on Monday. Flanagan ran unopposed for the seat vacated by Ryan Winkler of Golden Valley. Winkler resigned this summer when his wife took a job with a company in Europe. Flanagan is still waiting for her committee assignments, but hopes to focus attention on economic opportunity and education. She represents parts of Golden Valley, Plymouth, Medicine Lake, and St. Louis Park.
In Plymouth, residents will get a lesson on how to get rid of 2 unwanted guests they may have in their own backyards. One is an invasive plant known as buckthorn. Experts say fall is the perfect time to launch an attack on the plant because they're easier to find, and in the spring, buckthorn is harder to kill. In the past year and a half, the city has removed buckthorn in about half of its parks.
Some parks, buckthorn is just starting, and what we want to do is make sure it doesn't get a foothold in those parks and able to take off, because buckthorn does not go away on its own. It only grows and gets bigger and denser and taller.
The other unwelcome pest is the emerald ash borer, which has been found in Plymouth for the first time this fall. Experts will have advice for homeowners about invasive species and what they can do about it at a workshop next Monday morning, starting at 9:30 at Plymouth City Hall. Coming up, debunking flu myths. That's next in Health Check.
Then later in sports, the volleyball team at Heritage Christian Academy is set for its first state tournament appearance.
But first, the wind picks up and rain clouds move in. The best chance for showers is Wednesday evening. It is still relatively nice out for early November, but experts say the dreaded flu season has already arrived.
Now, doctors advise everyone to go out and get a flu shot to protect yourself from the virus. But as Delane Cleveland reports in today's Health Check, there are still myths that persist about the influenza vaccine.
Thanks, Mike. I'm joined here by Dr. Stacine Moroshuk of Hennepin County Medical Center, who's going to debunk some of those myths about the flu. So first off, there's a perception out there that the influenza vaccine can give you the flu. So is there any truth to that?
Well, I think that perception is out there because of a number of reasons. One is that people will go to a clinic to get their flu vaccination, and they're exposed to all sorts of infectious agents, cold viruses, other infectious agents. When they go there, they leave the clinic in a few days, they're sick with whatever virus was in the waiting room at that time, and then they say, oh, it must have been because of the shot. So that's one thing that happens. The other thing that can happen is the flu vaccine is meant to stimulate your immune system to recognize flu, and that process sometimes make people a little achy, can sometimes give them low-grade fevers, so they don't maybe feel terribly ill, but they feel not quite normal, and some people are like, oh, it gave me the flu. The vaccine is incapable of giving somebody infectious flu particles.
All right, now something else I hear often is that there are certain segments of the population that should just get the flu shot, but apparently it's not the case. What can you tell me about that?
The current recommendations is everyone from 6 months of age and older, unless you have a true contraindication, should be getting the flu vaccine. We know that even healthy people that don't have any chronic medical conditions can die from influenza, and they do die every year. We have about 4,000 hospitalizations every year in Minnesota because it weakens your immune system enough that you get secondary infections like pneumonia, bloodstream infections, meningitis.
What are the consequences about not getting a flu shot? What can happen?
Well, if you don't get a flu shot, you are at risk of getting the flu. There's no way to protect whether you're going to be exposed or not exposed. The other big thing is that it takes 2 weeks for the flu vaccine to work. So if you get a flu vaccine and then you get exposed to influenza 3 days later, you may still get the flu in that 2-week period, and so then they'll say, oh, it didn't work for me. I think people also confuse stomach flu, gastrointestinal vomiting diarrhea, with influenza, which is really a respiratory cough, high fever, shaking chills, headache, muscle pain illness. And they say, oh, you know, I got the flu vaccine and now I have the stomach flu. So it was the flu vaccine that gave me the stomach flu.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Moroshek, for joining us and debunking some of these flu myths.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, Mike and Alex, back to you.
All right, thank you, Delane. Coming up, an extra show of appreciation for veterans.
But first in sports, the Champlin Park volleyball team is back in the state tournament. We'll hear from the Rebels coming up with John Jacobson.
Well, here's a good reason to keep an eye on the state volleyball tournament. There are, count them, three teams from the Northwest Metro in the state tournament.
2 in 3A and 1 in Class A. It all gets started in a little while. The state volleyball tournament gets started Thursday morning. Champlin Park is back in the Class 3A tournament for a second straight season. Rebels have 7 players back from last year's team that won the Consolation Championship at state. The familiarity with the big arena and 2 matches going on at once at the XL Center should be a little easier to deal with this year.
I think it definitely helps. It'll help calm our nerves a little bit knowing going into it what we have to expect. So, yeah, I was a little nervous walking into that big arena with all those people, but we'll know, everyone else who hasn't been there will know that we're right next to them and there for them. So, yeah.
Champlin Park beat a very good Wayzata team in 5 sets in the Section 5 3A championship. They are the number 3 seed for the state tournament and meet North Branch in the quarterfinals. There's a general feeling that the tournament is more wide open this year, and the Rebels have a shot at winning it all.
Usually, as we'll say at the beginning of the season, these 3 or 4 teams are probably one of those 3 are gonna win the whole thing. And this year, it's been 8 to 10 teams. I think the sections changing a little bit have kind of spread the teams out a little bit, and it just happened to be one of those years where there's a lot of equality as far as the level of competition. So it is anybody's night.
North Branch and Champlin Park play in the quarterfinals Thursday at 11 a.m. at the XL Energy Center. Champlin Park senior Jenae Alderson has been a big force for the Rebels. Jay Wilcox profiles Alderson in this week's Sports Jam show on Channel 12. Here's a sample of what you'll see.
A 4-year varsity player, Alderson earned 3rd-team All-Metro honors this season and is a dynamic hitter. Her playing skills are very noticeable, but something else sets Jenae apart, that ever-present smile.
Probably natural. As I grew up, a lot of people just said it's my smile, and I really didn't know what the impact was of every compliment I ever got. Is just, you always are smiling, so it's kind of natural, and kind of always making sure I do it no matter what, but mostly natural, and it's kind of cool to have my teammates know that I'm okay. Even when I'm not, it's just to have to smile after a bad play.
Overall, I think it's not physically what she does best, but mentally, she keeps everyone positive. She is encouraging all the time, and I think that's the biggest asset to her game.
There's not been a day that she hasn't had that big bright smile on her face, and that's just great for her teammates to look over and say, hey, it's okay, Jenae's smiling, we're good. And as every year she's progressed physically, and to the point where she's getting some awards now and got a great chance to go play at Providence, and just been a huge part of our change over the last 5 years.
You can see the rest of that story and more this week on Sports Jam. It airs through Wednesday at 3:30, 6:30, and 9:30 p.m. on Channel 12 and 12.tv. It'll be a brand new experience for the Heritage Christian Academy volleyball team this week. The Eagles are in the state tournament for the first time. In fact, this appearance in the Class A tournament is the first for any team in any sport at Heritage. The Eagles swept Legacy Christian to win the Section 4A title, and the team is enjoying celebrity status at their small Maple Grove school.
Our teachers are going crazy. We've had people bring in desserts for us. Yeah, the support has been amazing. Yeah, it's crazy.
All the teachers come up to us and say congratulations, and it's super cool to know that your team is making history and the first team ever to make it to a state tournament, so it's awesome.
Heritage was seeded 4th in Class A, and they'll meet Ferndale in the opening round. It's a team they don't know a lot about.
I'm doing a little digging and trying to find out information, so I've been studying that, but we haven't seen them this year, and obviously they play in another part of the state, but from what I've seen, they're a very good team and have a lot of respect for what they do, and we'll have to really work hard to prepare.
The Ferndale versus Heritage match is at 1 p.m. Thursday at the XL Energy Center. And coming up Wednesday, starting at 4, we'll have a look at the Hopkins volleyball team as they qualify for state as well.
Exciting time for those athletes. Thanks a lot, John. Up next, a chance to serve up something a little extra for veterans.
Veterans Day specials when we come back. And finally, if you've served our country in uniform, Veterans Day on Wednesday is a chance to be served.
As a thank you to veterans, there are all kinds of free offers veterans can take advantage of on Wednesday. Here's just a couple examples. Perkins is serving up a free Magnificent 7 meal to all veterans who present their military ID or proof of service on Veterans Day. And need a haircut? Well, Wednesday is the perfect time. All Great Clips locations are offering free haircuts to veterans. And listen to this. Any customer who stops in for a service on Wednesday will receive a free haircut card that then can be given to a veteran. And you can tune in to Channel 12 on Wednesday for our Money Savers segment. Shannon Slatton has a look at all kinds of other local deals for veterans on Veterans Day, but also beyond. And it's everything from free oil changes, free gas, you name it, free wings. So
good, they earned it.
Take advantage, that's right. That does it for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
We'll see you back here again tomorrow beginning at 4.